When I was talking about, this is that Harper Lee book. So this is about this crazy.
I've not read it.
It's this crazy murder mystery about this guy who keeps killing his family members, and then he's on trial,
Yeah.
and then Harper Lee's just like in the, and everyone's like, is that Harper Lee?
Love
and it
it.
becomes this whole thing. It's super good. I just read that.
That's great.
Have you read Bubble in the Sun?
Yes.
Phenomenal. Did you read his cattle one?
No.
Okay, so he has one called Cattle Kingdom. I think he wrote it first, and it's you don't think of the Wild West as an economic phenomenon.
Yeah.
But it only lasted for like 10 years, and it was because during the war, a bunch of cattle had gone wild, so there was these enormous herds, and almost all of the cattle operations, like the most famous one, was funded by like Scottish investors.
Yeah.
So it was an enormous bubble that wasn't sustainable, immediately blew up. Teddy Roosevelt dumped like 50% of his fortune into a ranching operation, loses everything, and it basically existed only for a brief period of time, and yet the mythology of cowboys as this sort of permanent part of, it's like his book on Florida. We think of Florida as this boom, and in fact Florida is like the graveyard of fortunes.
Of booms and busts,
It's so good. It's so good. Have you read Brian Burroughs' oil book?
No.
He wrote Public
Another good
Enemies, which is about the invention of the FBI. But then, it's his book on speaking of other booms, it's all about the oil boom in the United States around the turn of the 20th century. That one's incredible. And then, what else did I do?
You have the best bookstore.
Thank you. They're only like my favorite books, and then they're almost...
Have you read every book in here?
I have read every book in here except for some of the ones my wife has picked out.
Yeah.
Which are more over
That's
there.
great.
So there's some that are just like not really my thing, but the idea is that they're all ones that we love.
Yeah.
Did you read? Have you read this book on? Are you a Bruce Springsteen fan?
Yeah.
Have you read this one?
No.
I give this one to everyone too.
No.
This is on the making of Nebraska, which, he's like on the cusp of being the biggest musician in rock.
Yeah.
And then basically does an acoustic album that his record label doesn't understand, his manager doesn't understand, that maybe even he doesn't, because he thinks it's going to be a follow-up to Born to Run.
Without Nebraska, Bruce Springsteen might not be who he is today.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the idea, I think, as an artist, to do the thing that's least expected of you, it's this incredible punk rock move, if you think about it. I really loved it. And then to the label's credit, like they actually supported it. It becomes this cult sensation. But it's nowhere close to his best-selling album, but it's like many people consider it his best album. So it's that same, and I think he's closest to it too. So it's that other thing where, like, as an artist, you have to develop your understanding of what you value, and then there's like one scene in the book, he checks on the sales of Nebraska like one time, like a couple months out, he's like, how's it doing? And his manager's like, good enough.
Yeah.
And he never thinks about it again, which is like where I think you want to get.
Yeah.
That
is a great spot to be in.
All right. So those would be the ones I would pick.
These are great. Thank you.
What's jumping out at you?
The
Or which ones do you like? You can
I'm
look at ones you
such
like.
a World War II amateur fan, so I've not read this one.
Okay, he is one of the
good?
great narrative nonfiction authors of all time.
Yeah?
Walter Lord wrote this book about the sinking of the Titanic. I know you like Erik Larson, right?
Yeah, the best.
You read his Lusitania book,
Yes.
right? Where is it? Furious Wake? No, what's it called? Dangerous Wake?
It's called
Dead Wake.
Dead Wake.
There.
This is another Walter Lord.
Yeah, there's Dead Wake.
Yes.
I would say this
Phenomenal.
is the second best shipwreck book.
Behind Walter Lord's?
Behind this one.
That's a good one?
Or, not shipwreck, because also the Shackleton book is amazing.
Yeah.
But if we're saying like runs into something and then sinks, Night to Remember is incredible. And this is another one where like it came out. This book came out in '55. It basically invents the genre of sort of narrative nonfiction, like a true event told like
just
a
like Erik
novel.
Larson does.
Yeah, and then it probably sells 20,000 copies. It's like it's
Robert
one
Kurson
of those.
is another of that.
Yes.
Of just it
but
could be a novel.
This guy invented this, and so he did that one. He did Dunkirk, which is incredible, and then he has one on. I thought we carry. He has one on Pearl Harbor that's also
Amazing.
very good, which I would read after it.
Is it too greedy to grab this one as well?
No, go for it.
Love
So
it. Oh,
good.
and it's a short one too.
It's
I like
very,
it.
yeah, they're very tight. He also has one about the War of 1812, which is great. He's like, when you read him, you're like, oh, this is like, He's the original, and then maybe also the GOAT at the same time.
Do you have your personal library at home, or this is your library?
I mean, I have copies of all the books that I've read because I use them. So I have like some are there. Some are. You want to see my office?
Yeah. Sure.
So yeah, so we bought these two at the same time, and then this was going to be like a copy on COVID. We rented out.
Yeah.
But I was looking for office space was the idea for everything. Like,
Yeah.
This is where like they do like sign. This is where like I sign all the books. And
Yeah,
stuff.
great.
And then this is where we do like e-commerce stuff.
Awesome.
You still have to build out the studio to do all this stuff, so I was like, why not just do it in one place? And then the retail downstairs is basically just subsidized by the other stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, this is where I write.
Amazing.
And
Book
so I have
proprietor.
here, books. Yeah, my sister did it.
Yeah. Love it.
So yeah, this is my house. Did you read Die with Zero? What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think it's great.
I did too.
I agree with 90% of it. A lot of people will say it is like counter to psychology money, but I agree with a lot of it. And it changed my views, particularly on money and kids. Of like, don't wait until you die to give your kids money. Help them when they need it, probably in their 20s, 30s, and 40s.
Yes, I thought that too. Right, because he's basically pointing out that, yeah, most people inherit money from their parents, if there is some, which is obviously a first world privileged thing. But it's like at 60 or something. And
when you probably don't need it.
Yeah, exactly.
But you really needed it at 30 when you're trying to make a down payment on your house or send your own kids to college.
Why did you saddle your kids with 20 years of college debt?
And then gave them $1 million when they were 60,
yes.
right?
Yes. Totally. And then, but what I liked is he was talking about how, you tend to be frugal early in life, save money, even though your understanding is if you do it right, you're going to be earning more money as you go. He's like, you're borrowing money from your poor self to give to your rich self later.
Yeah.
Which that struck is like, oh, that's totally right. Like, I think about my wife and I have been together since we were a kid. Like, we would get in arguments over money, and we were like, let's stay here instead of here. And then now, obviously, part of that contributes to where we are. But I would say most of the things we buy now are the result of the income we have now.
Yeah.
Not the retirement savings that we. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
the
income we have.
That, income smoothing is that the idea of like when you are young and poor, spend a lot of money because you're going to be making money in the future. Yeah. Like you might not.
Yeah.
You might not. And then if you're the kind of person who is like, you went into a lot of debt in your 20s because you were confident you were going to make a lot of money in your 40s, and then you don't. Now you're just screwed.
No, I don't think that's right. But there is I don't spend money to that. I live off the money that I make now.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm actually living within my means. Like I spend the money I have now, not all of it, but I live off the money I make now, not the income gains from the money I saved when I was 23.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And so thinking about it's like, oh yeah, so I really was like
robbing yourself of pleasure when you're 23 so that you can make money in your 30s that you don't need.
Yeah, to then be indifferent about that the gains of that money in the future. I thought that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like that would not be an added if you're, and I guess we're kind of as authors. But like if you're a second-year NBA player, that's really bad advice.
Yeah.
Or if you have a hit song, that's really bad advice because the chances of you repeating that thing are low. But if you are steadily earning and I think there's different ways to think.
It's almost like if you're in medical school, like be fine spending some money because
go
a
on
good salary
vacation
is going to await you.
Yeah, don't burn yourself out reusing trash bags.
Yes,
or
because you're going to make $400,000 when this is all over.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like that.
And then I just started. So I'm doing the fourth one.
Yeah.
In the thing. So I just on Monday I started the No Cartoon.
Great. And what's the one that's coming out soon?
The third book, which is the Justice. So I did Courage, Discipline, Justice. That's done, and that's in that box over there. And then now I have to start research. Already researched, but I have to start laying out and organizing wisdom, and then write.
Love it.
What should I read? You got any? If I'm writing a book on wisdom, which is intelligence, but also I think more like, the idea of prudence or understanding or truth. What book should I read?
I saw downstairs you have Fortune's Children.
Yes.
Phenomenal book.
Oh, I bought that, but I haven't read it.
You know what's really good? And this might seem like an oddball.
Vanderbilt
it's about the Vanderbilt family. Yeah. If you haven't read it yet, one of the best books about wealth and family matters ever is. I just finished a book called Never Enough, which is about the parenting stress that is placed on current kids and teenagers to get into a good college.
Okay.
Which has evolved even since you and I were going to
Sure.
college. It's a very new phenomenon of the pressure that 16-year-olds have to all get into Harvard and how it's just ruining them mentally. And a lot of it, she goes into detail about how the parents who pressure their children to get into a good school, it's really just the parents like they're doing it for their own good.
Yeah.
I want my kid to get into Harvard so I feel good about myself.
Sure.
And if my child has to suffer with that pressure, that's their own problem. I'm doing this for me. It's a really good book on just like values among parents. It's great.
Portfolio did this book. I think I saw it over here. Portfolio did a book on the college admissions scandal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where I thought I had it over here. Anyways, the two illustrative things I found in that book is one, they have one of the dads on the wiretaps go like, I just can't have my son go to ASU.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Which is a great school.
It's a perfectly fine school.
Yeah, so it's nothing. It wasn't like he won't get a good education at ASU. He's like, I just can't have a son at ASU.
I know. It's really tough, and the parents are doing that for their own ego.
And then to our point, we were talking about skiing. Like it was a middle class thing when we were a kid. What happened is because almost all the families were successful, and they themselves had gone to good schools, but they hadn't had to work that hard to get in those schools.
Yeah.
And the guy was saying that the criminal was saying, he's like, look, drive in neighborhoods that you didn't think were nice when you were kids.
Yeah.
He's like, they're all gentrified now.
Yeah.
And he's like, USC used to be a safety school or a rich kid school, but you didn't have to have good. But now
it's a good school.
It's both.
Yeah.
You know, and so the point of like, it was the rude awakening of they thought their kids could just sleepwalk into any school, and then realizing sophomore year that they hadn't done the work.
Yeah.
They weirdly hadn't been applying enough pressure, and then they decided to cheat to make up for the thing.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting. So never enough and Fortune's Children.
Yep. Great books.